Archbishop, we've seen the pictures, the awful pictures from the attack on the last remaining functioning hospital in Gaza City. What's your reaction to it?
My reaction is one of devastation. I say it for a couple of reasons. Devastation, first of all, for the people who were clinging on to hope that they might actually themselves or see their relatives survive, get some help, get some dignity, get some medical support. Secondly, devastation because as far back as 2018, I was there, I was physically in that hospital. I saw its workings, I saw the commitment and the integrity of the people responsible for it, of the people who carried out all of the medical and the nursing facilities, and actually celebrated Sarah's Holy Communion in its chapel. To see it reduced to rubble, that is a bit like a nuclear wasteland, really would tear very strongly at my heart and make me wonder about a whole range of things.
You've spoken and you've been in contact with people who are very close to you, and you're very close to them in Jerusalem. What are they saying?
You're absolutely right. I mean, successive archbishops, chaplains, clergy, people, I know them. I have enjoyed my time with them, and they, I think, reciprocally have enjoyed their time with me and with anybody whom I brought there. What they're saying is that they are now entirely horrified, that they themselves are condemning this and inviting people internationally to do the same. A couple of things I'd say about them. Not only are they vulnerable, but their word is resilience. They're holding on to the idea of bouncing or leaping back. I think that's something about which we know very little, if anything at all. That's not to say that we're cynical because we're comfortable. I don't mean that at all. It means that only if you can hear the voice of people going through the depth of that experience are you in any way aware of what it's like to live that on a daily basis. All I'd say to you is one of the times when I was, I was there for 2 days. On one of the days when I was in Gaza, we went to what were referred to as encampments of refugees. They actually were like unfurnished, I suppose, apartment blocks. And you're walking through them, you're invited to do so. People invite you in to have some tea. They have nothing, but they have an instinct for hospitality. One of the things I'd say as well is it's very important for us to realise that a Christian facility in what is an overwhelmingly Islamic country is actually a very full expression of who we are and what we do as followers of Jesus Christ for anybody and for everybody. And I think that all of this asks us to ask a fresh question about who on earth is my neighbour? And the answer is an open-ended answer, because all you've got to do is to go to that parable of the Good Samaritan, and you have actually an interfaith situation. You have people who are Jewish, you have a Samaritan, you have somebody who's unidentified. So you don't have the option of selecting away your neighbour. You need to respond. And I'd love to see that spirit continue, and I'd also love to see that spirit grow. And that, I think, is where my appeal is, not simply to see condemnation as an end in itself, but an appeal for solidarity in compassion with the people who are living for us who are Christians around the world, the life of what they themselves call the living stones.
I know it's not lost on you that it happened on the day that it happened, a very significant day in the Christian calendar. Does that make matters worse? Does it exacerbate an already impossible situation?
I think in many ways I have to say yes. I say it because the symbolism and the lived liturgical and prayerful life of Christians around the world, they take themselves emotionally, religiously and personally to this part of the world. They walk in their heart and in their head with Jesus Christ from the wilderness, with the people who were rejected, into Jerusalem and through to Calvary and then on to Emmaus. Now, it's that final bit of the journey, and we're nowhere near it yet because we're still on Palm Sunday, that would force me to keep thinking in terms of hope. That there is the risen life of Jesus which we share with others, but at this point we're entering the dark tunnel of the streets of Jerusalem. And I think the overlap of this with that is bound to affect and hit people worldwide. And I'd encourage people to pause and to think of the juxtaposition of these things. Something which is irrefutable, what happened? The reduction of probably the last functioning hospital and a medical facility in Gaza, reduced to rubble. Jesus entering Jerusalem, understood, misunderstood, aligned with his Father, but also aligned with being a troublemaker with those who exercise political power, and finding his way then rejected by everybody and hanging on the cross.
You're not long back from your most recent trip. What was your mission, and are you back with a sense of satisfaction? Was it mission accomplished?
It's a good question. It was actually about mission. It was about unity and mission between the Anglican and the Lutheran traditions worldwide. There have been, I suppose over the last maybe 50 years, maybe longer, ecumenical agreements between the Lutherans and the Anglicans in Northern Europe. And it's my opportunity and my privilege to co-chair one of those, which is Porvoo. Porvoo is a small country, a small city in Finland with a cathedral, and the agreement was signed there almost 30 years ago. It enables Anglicans and Lutherans together to explore aspects of mission and life in Europe. It came about after, I suppose, the collapse of the Cold War, and therefore is quite important in terms of mission and footfall in Europe. What I went to do was to team up with my Lutheran counterpart, who's the Lutheran co-chair, and there were 12 groups of 2 bishops from around the world. Some from the United States, some Cameroon, some from South America, 2 sets from Africa, and local Lutheran and Anglicans in the Holy Land. What we were seeking to do was to find workable projects for the next 3 years, then we'll be back reporting. What we decided upon in relation to the 2 of us in Europe was 3 things. One of which was the enhancement of our communication. One, because we have a prayer diary, but there's actually no point in a prayer diary simply being black marks on a white page. So we thought to embed in that links to diocesan websites and Facebook so that people could take clips from that and actually illustrate the prayer that they might do in their churches. Secondly, there's an opportunity for the primates within Porvoo to look at how ministry can be used and transferred, and therefore can facilitate churches and parishes in knowing one another better and bringing that relationship which there is in Canada and the States into Europe. So it can be quite exciting. Thirdly, we're aware that the impact and the footfall of Porvoo is very much in Europe. And what I want to do, starting with the pilot project in Dublin, is to bring together the different types of orthodoxies and also the Roman Catholic tradition into a sort of dialogue with us, and to use that to identify 5 things which matter to Christian people in contemporary Europe, and see where we can take that and encourage people to do that elsewhere. Before I finish, Ray, what I'd like to do, often you probably heard me talk about life being a bit like a kaleidoscope. You shake it and you get a different picture. This may seem a little bit gloomy, but it's just, I think, reflective. When I was in Jordan, I bought this. It's a cross, which I wear around my neck. It's a mosaic. It's from the city of Madaba. I think we've moved from, as it were, the shake of the kaleidoscope to the static character of the mosaic itself, and I'm not quite sure when we're going to get out of it.